Hill to Wall Street. This is Politics and Profits with your host, Rick Amato.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick Amato. It's time for Politics and Profits.
We follow the trends on Capitol Hill that lead to the profits on Wall Street. We expose the hard facts of what your elected officials are doing when you're not looking. And we show you how you can profit from their politics. The American dream is alive and well, and you can be proud to call America your home. And now, it's Rick Amato.
Welcome to Politics and Profits. Well, very few industries have taken a bad rap like the pharmaceutical industry has. Is it deserved? Or are the American people being misled by the media? And join me this time from Los Angeles is a contributor to Politics and Profits. He is hedge fund manager, venture capitalist, and futurist, CEO of Bullseye Capital. Let's welcome back to the show, Joel Block. Joel, good to see you.
Hey, Rick, thanks. How are you, man?
Doing terrific.
Good. Nice to see you.
Is it fake news, or does the pharmaceutical industry deserve the bad rap it gets by the American?
Listen, I think that there are few industries in the United States that have been vilified more than this industry, and it is the least deserved of I think all the industries. That's not to say they haven't been perfect, and that's not what the purpose of this discussion is. But I will tell you that these are companies that have advanced our society and the ability of humankind to live a good and long life like no other kinds of companies. We have depended on these companies. And by the way, we are incredibly dependent on them right this second to develop a vaccine for us so we can get out of this pandemic and go back to our regular lives and do what we like to do. So people criticize them on the one hand, but the truth is that they love them, so they love to hate them. I think overall, they've taken a really bad rap and they don't deserve it.
A lot of people give them a bad rap because they say that the drugs are overpriced, the pharmaceuticals are overpriced. You, being in venture capital, you see the road that these companies have to take to get to the finish line.
Let's take a look at that for a second. This is the part I think most people don't understand. I don't think that they really understand how the money works in these types of businesses. So let's say that you're one of these pharmaceutical companies and they get a home run drug. You know, not every drug they put on the market, by the way, is a home run. So they got to put out a lot of different things. They got to test a lot of things. They got to put a lot of different things out there. They got to advance hundreds of millions of dollars to test out their theories, to test out their scientific advancements. And by the way, these are not companies that employ a lot of minimum wage workers. I mean, they employ extremely sophisticated, some of the best and brightest from the United States and around the world. So these companies are investing hundreds of millions of dollars to solve the problems that we citizens of the world have. And let's say that 1 or 2 out of 10 hit. That means that they've invested hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. It's the venture capital model. You're lucky to get 1 or 2 out of 10 and be successful. And here's another thing that's problematic for these guys is that when they first launch the drug and they figure out the secret formula or whatever it is that they do, they go and they get a patent. Now that patent only lasts for 20 so years. That's it. It lasts for around 20 years. Well, by the time the drug comes to market, after it goes through the whole FDA process and all the other things that need to happen, maybe there's 10 years left. So they only get about 10 years of protection. Wow. And even though the United States does a good job of protecting these companies for those 10 years, that's all they get. Their window is a lot smaller than people think. So they have a very small amount of time to monetize those investments and make them work. And these companies are investing real dollars and they're taking real risk so that the marketplace like us can benefit from what it is that they do.
That's amazing the way you put it in that perspective, Joel. You know, I hadn't thought about the numbers there of 20-year patent, but it takes 10-year perhaps a process. Now you're down to 10 years and that patent's gone. You know, that's
it. So, you know, these companies, so when they end up putting out something, and then here's another problem, is that let's say that their drug only helps 50,000 people, but they're into it for $1 billion. So, and don't forget that they've got to make up for all the other drugs that didn't work out over the last, 10 years or 5 years. So they got to add all those dollars in. And so maybe they're into something for $2 billion. Well, they just can't divide the number of people by 50,000. So these companies are not highly incentivized to work on things that only affect a small number of people. They want to do things that affect a large number of people for a long period of time, because those are going to be regular customers, people that take these very fancy, these cocktail, these new blood thinner drugs, and some of these very fancy things. I mean, there's thousands of different things, but they really cater to the people who take these things on a regular basis, and they're quite expensive. Now, people say, well, they seem to have some kind of an entitlement mentality. I should be able to get these drugs for $5. Well, I don't know why people think they should get the things for $5, but I will tell you, a lot of these pharmaceuticals have foundations that bring the cost of these drugs down to $5 or $10 a month.
Really?
A lot of these things, I know that Xarelto and Vasipa and some of these places, you go to your pharmacy, you ask them for the manufacturer discount. Janssen does a great job with this. I know that Pfizer does a good job with this. There are several companies that do a very good job of putting this out. And so, we have to recognize that these companies are in business to make money. They're in a very high risk business. And, and they really understand what it is that they do.
Some big names out there. You mentioned a few of them already. And, what comes to my mind is Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline. These are all American household names. Are they not?
Yes, they are. And they've solved some of our biggest problems. I mean, they help keep us comfortable, so that people aren't uncomfortable with these medical problems that people have. I mean, and right now we're hoping that somebody comes up with a vaccine. And this vaccine is a very good example. There were several companies that were very close to having a vaccine, and then 2 or 3 of them dropped out of the race because something didn't work. And that's how it works for them, is when they start their clinical trials, their real life, the field testing of these drugs, they find out something doesn't work just right. So they got to go back to the drawing board. And that continues to shorten the window on their patent. It continues to draw dollars, and they have to ultimately make that work out. And, and that's really the issue for this. It's not like the car industry. When you make a car, the first car on the assembly line, it might take 10 years to design the car, build the factory that makes the car. And the first car might cost $5 billion. But the second car only costs, $10,000.
Right.
It's exactly the same for the pharmaceuticals. The first pill, the first injection, the first dose might cost $1 billion, plus they got to take in all the other things they couldn't sell before. So it's billions of dollars for the first one. And the next one might only cost them $5 or $2. But people look at the $5 or the $2 and they say, well, it only costs them $2. Why don't they sell it to us for $4? That would be fair. That's fine if you're a retailer and you don't have any built-up expense. But these people have capital costs that cause the cost of their basis to go higher, and they have to sell, like the car companies. Ford's got to sell 100,000 cars and make a certain profit to earn back the $5 billion it costs to build the first car. So these pharmaceutical companies, are good companies.
Joel Block, we're out of time. You did a great job of explaining to our viewers across America the misinformation, the misperception, whatever you want to call it, that's been created out there on a pharmaceutical industry, and why it and what the reality of things actually are. It's a great industry in America. All right, Joel, hedge fund manager, venture capitalist, futurist, CEO of Bullseye Capital, we thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rick.
Broadcasting from the Liberatory CPA Studios, back with more right after this.
Politics and Profits with Rick Amato is brought to you by Liberatory Accounting, the IRS problem solvers. To find out how Liberatory Accounting can help you, call 877-6-SOLVER. That's 877-6-SOLVER.